Good evening. Today is Monday, July 7th, 2025. I'd like to call the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting to order.
Linda Grappo.
Troy Lemire.
Paul Marino.
Paul Harrington.
Todd Archulacci.
Glenn Albanesius.
William Hester.
William Pozo.
Selectwoman Perez is excused.
Just a quick question for our clerk. Mr. Town Clerk, that second monitor's not on?
Right, that's the cable feed, and we are in continued
We have an issue.
negotiations with Spectrum to fix that.
Okay. I just saw it and I just didn't want to have the whole meeting. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye.
No problem. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, agenda review. Does anyone have anything? Moving on to item 4, the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting on June 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? 6-0. Moving on to item number 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less and may speak once. Please give your name and address. Who would like to speak? Come on up, Bill. Just hit the red microphone button to turn that on. Nope. There you go.
William Hudock, 232 Grantville Road. The Selectmen in previous meetings have discussed the issues arising from the actions of the town clerk to open the office on this Saturday before the most recent town budget referendum for the purposes of offering and processing absentee ballots without public notice, without communication to the town manager or the Board of Selectmen, and communicated only through the Republican Town Committee Facebook page. The members of the Democratic Town Committee have not filed a complaint with the State Election Enforcement Commission, but are aware that a complaint has been filed. The SEEC will investigate and make a determination as to whether sanctions, fines, and/or criminal penalties should result from this action consistent with Connecticut statutes. The Democratic Town Committee discussed this matter and are recommending that the Board of Selectmen take a proactive step in ensuring that the town, its residents, and property owners are protected against a repeat of this action by any town employee, including the town clerk. We offer the following proposed town ordinance, which adds a new article to the existing Chapter 87 notices, and request that the Board of Selectmen send it to the town attorney for review and put it on the agenda for consideration by the Board of Selectmen. If I could just read this, please. It would be a new article, Article 2, Notice and Hours of Town Offices. Section 87.4, Intent. The Board of Selectmen seeks to ensure that all citizens, taxpayers, and visitors to the town of Winchester have equal access to town offices, and that any changes or additions to the hours that all town offices are open, including the town clerk and the registrar of voters, are clearly posted on the town website, the town notice board, and all of the town's social media and public notification accounts at least 5 working days prior to the change or addition of the hours of operation, unless greater notice is required by state or federal law. Such notice shall clearly state when the intended or changed hours shall commence and end. Section 87.5, submission of proposed changes to the town manager and publication. The town manager shall be responsible for approving and publishing notice of all changes or additions to the hours that any town office is open. Town employees and elected officials shall not transact or process any business outside of the hours that have been approved and published in accordance with this ordinance. Section 87.6, effective adopted regulations. To ensure equal access to town offices to all citizens, property owners, and visitors to the town, and to provide timely public notice of the changes or additions to hours in which town business can be transacted, ensures that all citizens and taxpayers have the same opportunity to transact town business, to vote, and to participate fully as outlined in state statutes and the town charter. So that is what we have developed. If I could just say parenthetically, I was taught that you should never come with a problem without a solution. This is something that we view as a solution. So we offer it to you. We hope that you will send it to the town attorney, that you'll put it on your agenda for consideration. Thank you. To whom do I give? Thank you.
Who else wishes to speak?
Good afternoon. No, I'm Cheryl McGlynn, 61 Wetmore Avenue, Winstead. I've got two things I'd like to address. One is I'm here to support this proposed ordinance. I think clarity and transparency are really important. And I know that the members of this board understand that they represent everyone in the town of Winchester, not just those that they feel will vote for them or vote on the way they want. So it's very important that we have clear rules. This was very disturbing to find out that only certain people were given notice of a town office being open, and that the town clerk would not tell anyone why and who told them to do it or who suggested it. It's not the transparency that this board should be seeking, and that's not the transparency that the town people want. So I would ask that you take serious consideration. It's a fair thing. It gives us guidance so that we don't have any confusion in the future and everyone has the same expectations. The other thing I'd like to bring up just briefly, and I don't know whether I should just taken this to Paul directly. I've been on the lake last few Sundays, and we're having a serious issue after 5 o'clock with wave runners and boaters speeding, so breaking the no wake rule big time. I was trying to go out on the paddleboard and had to get off because I couldn't enjoy that time. So I don't know if because there's no patrols after 5 o'clock. So maybe there can be patrols. You gauge that just so that, if you kind of regulate it sporadically, people will stop doing it. But that's all. Thank you.
Was that during the week or on the weekend?
No, that's on Sundays at 5.
Okay.
It's no wake
That's
zone.
I just wanted to make sure it was Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Come on up.
My name is Harris Daigle, and I reside at 304 East Wakefield Boulevard. I'm aware that the town has sold or gotten rid of some properties, 6 or 7 or 8 properties around town. But my concern is that there are a lot of these postage size, as you call them, postage lots, 50 by 100 and so forth, that are all over the place. I was interested in some of these lots. I put in the paperwork, a request for it a year ago, and nothing's come of it. I don't know if the board is on board with getting rid of this. I mean, to me, you're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I know there's always projects coming up that, that you could use the money for, or keep the taxes a little lower, but that's another thing. But I just don't know if this is something that the Board of Selectmen want to continue with. It's an easy process. You take a vote and say, well, yeah, let's get rid of them, and that's the end of it, or not. So that's all I have to say. It's been a year, so I just keep waiting a little longer. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wish to speak?
Stephen Plumley and Holly Atkinson, 152 Grantville Road. I'm here to follow up on an email that we sent to everyone here on the board which was forwarded from a submission we did on June 20th to the state DOT after their presentation on June 7th. It's a very long email, so I won't repeat all of the points here, but just want to make the one essential point, which is that it's critical that at least one lane of the bridge, I'm talking about the Granville Road Bridge project, one lane of the bridge remains open at all times. Not just because it's inconvenience, but because there's, I think, serious safety hazards, and also for ourselves and for nearby neighbors, and also closing that bridge would really kill our farm business, which is located 300 feet up the hill from that bridge. I don't think any thought was given to what happens to the folks to the south of that bridge. There was some mention to folks to the north of that bridge. Not sure of the process going forward, but just want to reiterate that one lane, that it's critical that one lane remains open. On June 20th itself, in the kind of the forward, I described a kind of situation, and actually even this week we have Danbury Quarter Road being closed, which is also, you can see the traffic and up on Granville Road because of that, and other kind of situations going on there. So imagine that happening for an entire year. I think it's pretty significant disruption. So again, not sure the process going forward, but I thought I heard at the P&Z meeting that it was coming here next, perhaps, and it's a DOT project, but just wanted to make you all aware of that, follow up the email that we sent on June 20th. Thanks.
Hello. I'm Mary Ann Marino, 631 Vera Road. I am here to speak on my own behalf. I have submitted an application for one of the open seats on the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. I served on that commission from 2020 to 2023. Recently, within the last year, I joined the Highland Lake Watershed Association Board. I've been the liaison since I joined Highland Lake Watershed Association to inland wetlands. I worked very closely with Jamie Gentanio until he stepped down. I am currently an alternate on ZBA, and there is precedent, I'm sure you are all aware, for individuals to be on two boards. Willie Platt is on the Water Level Commission and Planning and Zoning. Up until 3 weeks ago, George Clausen was on Water and Sewer and Planning and Zoning. Ryan Horvate is on Tax Assessment Appeals, and this board appointed him to a second board, which is ZBA. I've spoken with the chair of Wetlands, Stephen Molinelli. He's in support of me getting back on the commission. And I believe 2 additional letters of support were sent from other commissioners to this board from Gary Paganelli and Russ Davenport. They're 2 seated commissioners who I served with the longest. I was here at the last meeting, and I ran into Selectman Lemire and Selectman Pozo out front, and Selectman Lemire shared that he believed there might be a conflict of interest with me being on both ZBA and Wetlands. So I did a little research. I looked through the town charter. I looked through the state statutes. I couldn't find anything that stated there was a conflict. So I reached out to Attorney Nelligan, and he confirmed that there is no conflict of interest of me serving on both of those boards. I have, my printer unfortunately failed, so I only have 3 copies, but I'll pass them out. These are copies of the email thread between myself and Attorney Nelligan. I did email it to you, Selectman Lemire, so, and Selectman Pozo, I know you guys are on the vetting committee. So I think that's my spiel. I would appreciate your support and a yes vote on my application. It's a deep drawdown year. There are 2 empty seats right now. They could use the help. I've done it before. I know how to do it, and I'm ready to get to work and to volunteer for this town that I care so much about. So thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I'm Doug Warner. I don't live in Winston anymore, but I'm from Torrington, 44 Rockledge Loop. I didn't think I'd be able to speak tonight, but I guess, I hope you'll allow me to say a few things. It's about the banners on Main Street. We put them in the park, and it was a very successful thing and very patriotic, and I just feel patriotic going there. And we got so much response after people saw that they want their relatives and veterans, mothers, fathers, and uncles to also have a banner, and we'd have to put them on Main Street. So I came to support the veterans and ask that we can allow the banners to be on Main Street, because there's a lot of interest in that. So what do I do? Can you discuss that, or?
We can add it to a future agenda, or during selectmen comments and reports, we can talk about it.
In the future?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Moving on to item number 6, town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bear with me, I'm out of order, which is unusual right now. Okay. This is between the time frame of June 16th through to July 7th. Start off with, if you haven't been up that way on Route 44, also known as Main Street, that the DOT has finally began the lane dieting project that we had talked about for many, many months. What you'll see out there right now is a very rough sketch of, what eventually they're going to come in and narrow those lanes down. It is going to be done with paint, as I've stated for several months. What this is going to do is to either show that it is going to slow traffic down with these lane dieting ideas, or it is not. And hopefully it does prove that lane dieting on our Main Street does work, and that the state then comes in and puts real money into it and recreates the road down the one lane in lane dieting. So happy to report. It was funny, when I was writing this report end of last week, they had said that they were very close to coming out, and then I get a call from the mayor that says they're out there today, as I'm literally writing the report. So they are out. They hope to have it done within 7 to 10 days of when they started, and hopefully that will wrap up this Friday, and we'll see what it all looks like. Moving on, the Winchester Community Survey looks like this. Very big report. Is now final, and the results have been published on the town's website. I do want to thank everyone who took the time to share their thoughts and feedback with the town. Your input is being used as we put the Winchester's future together. Please take a look at the results if you have a chance. The few comments that we did receive on social media was that residents were unaware that we were doing this survey. And I sat back and I listened to every comment, and every comment's a good comment. I don't look at it as a comment of being negative. We promoted it very heavily on Facebook, yet we're getting comments on Facebook that they didn't see. In fact, we went back and we posted it over 21 times on Facebook to take the survey. We had QR codes around Town Hall, QR codes in different businesses. We obviously on our website as well. But I will make this guarantee that the next time we do a survey, because we do hope to do it yearly, we'll try even more ideas. And because of a select woman, we have a wonderful new connection at the radio station. We'll promote it on the radio even, because that seemed to work with the budget. So I hear you. I want to let the public know that I do read all the comments. I don't look at them as, you're attacking. I look at it as, this is how we get better. So I promise you the next time we do a survey, we will promote it in more places than we did the last time, and hopefully we can even get more people to participate in the survey. Moving on, if you haven't, we sent out our first Everbridge alert last week with a frantic running around and me in the back office trying to finally push out, and this is the first time I was able to push out a message personally myself. We did launch our first Everbridge text message, email, and phone call that Danbury Quarter Road was going to be closed. I put this in my town manager's report for a few reasons. One, if you haven't had the chance to sign up online for our alert system, if you look at the screens, and of course, you'll see right down here, there's this little button that says I should look at my screen, emergency alert system sign up. Click on that, and then right now, if you don't have a username or an account, you would just go down here and don't have an account and just click the sign up button, okay? If you do have an account, this is something I'm gonna give our residents a little homework with, because we've gone in and we've fine-tuned our Everbridge account. You can now go into your account and you can now select certain alerts that you wish to receive or not to receive. And we broke it in by department. So maybe you don't want to, and I'm just not going to take a shot at any of our departments, but you don't want to receive anything from our Parks and Rec department. You can unclick that box. But you want to receive everything else, whether it's roads, whether it's emergency management, the town manager's office. You can now go in and select what alerts you want or don't want. So if you've registered, great, and thank you. I ask that maybe you spend a couple minutes, go back into your account and select the items that you wish to be notified. Make sure the settings are all perfect. If you haven't registered, please take the 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes to go in. You saw how easy it was. You're just gonna go right to the home page of our website, click on that button. It's gonna bring you over into this page. Just at the bottom, don't have an account, sign up. It's gonna ask you a couple quick questions, and you'll be informed on all of the things that are going on in town. And again, we hope that we never have to use this in a life or death situation, but this is a way we're gonna communicate. If you remember back and why we unlocked this particular program is when we ran out of water. And we were getting a couple comments that I didn't know, we didn't have social media, I didn't go on the website. This is a way for, my office, emergency management's office, our public works office, this is a way for our staff to communicate to all of you. And one thing we all know is if it's on this thing, we're more inclined to, obviously read it. So take the few minutes, get yourself an account on Everbridge and stay informed of all the fun stuff that's going on in town.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
For all of us that signed up for Everbridge earlier, do we have to go back in and sign up for everything? Or if we already signed up, we'll get everything?
That is a great question. So I did notice, and I talked to one of our select people over the weekend. I think it was actually Thursday. I said, did you receive the actual text or alert? And the individual said they did not. So I happened to go into the back office of the account. When that individual signed up, they actually didn't click anything. So here's what I'm gonna recommend everybody to do. If you have an account, go in and see what exactly you signed up for. You may have signed up incorrectly and didn't check the box to be informed. You just created the account. Take the 2 minutes, go in. Again, you can now pick and choose what alerts you wanna sign up for, but it's a great question, Troy. Take the 2 minutes. Most people, and we have, believe it or not, over 8,000 people signed up for Everbridge. We were able to take from the Demis State of Connecticut database and upload them into our system as well. So if you did sign up through the Everbridge through the State of Connecticut, we were able to grab those accounts and bring them over into Winchester's Everbridge account. So that's exciting. It's why we have 8,000. I can tell you though, unfortunately, when we sent out this last alert, last and only alert so far, that 1,200 accounts did bounce. So we have some incorrect information. So take the 2 minutes, life and death situations, but you'll also know about all the fun things going on in town as well. So, and it is very simple to do. Troy, if you registered, go back in, Selectman Lemire, go in and
I did receive the Danbury Quarter one.
Okay.
I'm not sure I got another one, but.
We only sent one so far. We only sent one, so.
Did you get the phone call too?
Did you get the phone call too? I was on the phone with the mayor and I said, did you get, and I was all excited because I got mine. And I said, did you get it? He goes, yep. And then he goes, oh, and now the phone's ringing. And now I got an email. And then a few people in the office, I didn't get it, Paul. So then I go in and I check our database. They never signed up. So just informal. The board, I know, I think everybody, Mr. Marino, I don't think you got it.
I did not get it.
You did not, but you do now because I went in and put you.
Did you update me?
I updated
I appreciate
you, yes.
that.
I updated a few of the select people because I think it's important for you all to obviously know what's going on.
I got
so.
it, but I didn't get the phone call or the.
You can go in and select what
Yeah, I'm
you
going to
want
now.
as a way of communication. The
Yeah.
voice, the mayor did get the voice as well. It does leave a voicemail too. So, okay. Moving on. Some excellent news, CTDOT Section 5310 compliance. It's a great pleasure to inform you that we have completed our review with the CTDOT Section 5310 site visit for the senior center. Just a little background on that, because this may be the first time you're hearing about this, is it's designated that we receive 5310 funds from the state, and to fulfill the responsibility, CTDOT conducts annual site visits and desk audits with Section 5310 guarantees. These audits allow CTDOT to meet with grantees, monitor compliance with program requirements, review documentations, and perform a visual inspection on all the vehicles. I want to absolutely thank the Senior Center for their dedication and their high standards, because we flew through this audit and they came back with just a couple of questions. We had it back within days, and we have gotten the green light. So congratulations to our Senior Center. I was there for the audit on the first day. Simple things that we have to keep in the van, and placards that need to be displayed. All of that stuff is looked at, and I'm happy to report that we are full compliance with the money that we get. If you remember, the 5310 allows us to go out and buy those senior vans at a huge, they pay 80% of the van, we pay 20%. So exciting news that we've checked all of the boxes in terms of that. Update on the bond. If you were unaware, we went last Wednesday for the bond sale. Happy to report that the winning bid was Raymond James at 3.72% with a premium of $344,990. That was on the $8 million that we had talked about a few months ago. We have officially closed the bond. The money was actually wired into our accounts this morning, just over, obviously, $8,344,990. So the roadway infrastructure bond work can continue to go. So that's exciting. What's really also exciting is that we had 10 quote-unquote banks bid on our $8 million bond. When we look at bond sales and you go into the offices and you see everything, there are towns that are out there, and even states, and they're going out and borrowing 40, 50, 60, $100 million. And here's Winstead with an $8 million bond. We had 10 offers. That was awesome to see at real competitive rates at 3.72. We were punching at that percentage rate where some of these larger communities with a little higher credit rating wanting to borrow $50, $60 million, our interest rates were coming in at that amount. So it was great to see. Again, I think a lot of that has to do with when we went to the ratings call and we talked about all the excitement in town. So officially the bond has been closed. And since we're talking a little bit about finances and bonds, happy to also report that all of the budgets, that's water, that's sewer, and also the town's 25-26 budgets are all loaded into the system and ready to go. So we're both on a revenue and an expense side of things. Walking around Town Hall, they say, Paul, that may be the first time in a decade that all three are done. Typically, water sewer would not come in until October, November. They wouldn't have a budget. Obviously, we know some of the budget woes we've had on the town side as well. So great work by the team, obviously. All three budgets approved and now loaded into the system. Moving on, mirror update. Fortunately, my time serving on the mirror board has come to an end. As required by state statute, effective June 30th, per state law, mirror has dissolved at the end of June. We managed to move the Essex town into a private option, but the Torrington transfer station ran into a last-minute snag. A quote-unquote rat was slipped into the final day of legislative sessions in Hartford, derailing the plans that Mirror had. DAS has now taken over the transfer station and will work with the NRRA. The dust completely has not settled, and we're still sorting out what that all means for Winstead. There are less expensive options out there, and as always, every penny matters. I'm expecting this thing to twist and turn a few more times, but it's not resolved as of yet. So that's Mira. Quick little Tort Museum Civic Summer Camp. I was up there, and I know the mayor was up there on the first day of camp. They have 8 or 10 younger adults taking a civics camp, and this year is what it means to be an American. While I was there, I invited them all to town hall. And of course, they took me up on the option. We spent a good morning here. We toured them in all the offices, and then we came in here. I let them sit in your seats. They felt very privileged to sit in the seats, and then they interviewed me. So great to see our youth of our town getting involved in civics and in government. And last but not least, and the reason this is up here is, one, I wanted to show everybody how to sign up for Everbridge, but what you're looking at now is our current website. It's hard to read, it's hard to figure anything out. So one of the things that I've been working on in some of the free time that I have is that we've wanted to revamp our website. So, do this right. Now, this is just a startup version. You can start to see that things have gotten a little bit clearer. The text is going to get bigger. This is just in the background, but you'll see, pay your taxes, apply for a permit, meetings and agenda, legal notices, and get notified, which is going to be that Everbridge. I'll just click on it and I'll show you exactly what it does. It'll bring you right to the and this is not a live link. You won't see this website yet because we still have a lot of work to do on it, but the cool part is what we've done is we've made it easy to find things. So we've added this search bar, and you can type in anything that you want. And for example, mill rate history. I don't know why I looked that up, but I'm gonna click on it and we'll hit search. And you'll see all the articles that can be talked about with the mill rate. So we're adding a search feature so that you no longer have to hunt to look for the information. Maybe just type it in the search bar and it might bring you right to where you need to go. But I want to go down a little bit further. We have a little Winchester's where home is more than just a place. But now we get into the announcements and the news, and you can see that it's much clearer pictures. It draws you in a little bit better, and here's the Danbury Quarter road closure. So you can click on it, and you can see that it looks exactly the same, but we've made our website a little bit easier on the eyes. You have your upcoming meetings, as you can see, July 7th, we have a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then down here we have recently held meetings. If you want to click through and see what was recently held. Now this is the cool part, and this is where I really wanted to talk about Winchester and what we have to offer. So we have Enjoying Winchester, and you can click on these and find a fun event. And our website provider, and I don't think a lot of people knew this, was they're going out and they're talking with our area businesses to find out what exactly is going on in town. And these businesses are then putting these events onto our website. So today we have Youth Civics Challenge going on. It's for 13 to 18-year-olds over at the Tort Law. And you can click on different dates throughout the calendar. You can submit an event. So if you have an event going on in town, this is a way that you can involve more of the community. And then, of course, you go down and you still can, subscribe to notifications if you want to get an email every morning at 9:30. You have that. Just a work in progress. I thought it was important that I just at least showed you all that we're working on a newer, easier to find website. And last but not least, this came up at a Board of Selectmen meeting a few weeks ago. We're going to see it twice. We do have new signs. We have one, obviously, when you first come up the stairs. We also have one by the elevator of the police station. We had those, those letters that you stick in. Things were spelled incorrectly. We went out, and as a resident did come in and say we didn't really put our best foot forward. Happy to report that the signs have come in, we've hung them up, and we definitely make it look a little bit better. The neat part is these things just slide out when we can replace, we can move them around. So that's all I have. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor, or open it up to questions.
Any questions from the board? Paul?
So 2 questions really that came from public comments tonight. Can we get a detailed list of the so-called picnic lots? I think that's what was being referred to. And these are all those small picnic lots that are up around the lake, I presume. Can we get a listing of the ones that we own and maybe a GIF of the location so that we can potentially entertain publishing that list and selling off those lots? It's been talked about forever, and maybe we should look at seeing how many there really exist.
We can definitely do that, yes.
And my second question from, again, came from public comment is, do we have a policy or is there an agreement with the town attorney in terms of can any resident call the attorney at any time and bill us for the time?
There is no set policy from my office, and I do not believe there is a set policy from the Board of Selectmen. You're talking engaging the town attorney?
Do we need to do something about, because I can imagine that 11 or how many thousand people could pick up the phone and we could have quite a bill.
What's the board's, I know this isn't on the agenda. I can propose a few things. I've seen it done two different ways in the town. I've seen the town attorney be open to all boards and commissions, and I've seen that the town attorney everything has to go through either the mayor, first selectman, or town manager.
Should we get it on the agenda for our next meeting to discuss in terms of what the policy should be?
Yes,
Bring some
please.
options.
Bring options.
Great.
Because I know we kind of brought that up once before, I think when we first were elected, and there was too many different department heads were actually reaching out to the town attorney without
It was
going
out of
through-
control at that
without
point.
going through the town manager
Right.
first, so.
I wasn't here at the
Yeah,
time, obviously I
no,
wasn't here,
no,
but
you were not.
that's fine. Okay.
Other questions?
Yep, I actually have one about this, the lane dieting and the painting. I was actually coming down Main Street and it looked like a bunch of graffiti. So those little lines, those are just temporary, right?
Those are temporary, those
So they're
are,
gonna
the draft lines, you know how
Okay.
when they pave a road?
Yes.
And then they come in and they just, and then they finally come in with the big machine to do it?
Yes.
That's just temporary as a guide to where the, lack of a better, wider lanes or wider lanes will end up being. Yes.
Because that's a pretty big open space. when you
Yes,
come down.
yeah, no, it'll be
choke
done a
that
lot.
down,
Yeah, it'll be
so.
done a lot better. Yes,
There
it
has
does
been
look like a.
considerable social media commentary on the lines
Just
already.
a tad, yes,
Yes.
just a tad.
Troy?
What's the story about the light pole that got damaged in front of the town hall?
Still waiting on Eversource to get back to us and when it's gonna be replaced.
So it's an Eversource pole?
It is an Eversource pole, yes, and it was Eversource's crew that knocked it down. So it's going through all of the insurance and it's,
It's not a good look for town hall.
no, it's not, especially the one right in front. And I have to look at the American flag in our closet, standing up, we have it propped perfectly, but I have to look at it every day and out my window, and it irks me. So I've probably placed at least probably a half a dozen calls of trying to figure it out, and it's still stuck in their proverbial, claims.
I think I'm gonna make a little complaint myself.
There you go.
Linda?
Banners. I think I have in my saved documents that there was a proposed ordinance about banners. I mean, I think we should probably pull that up and discuss that again at a meeting. And is this the time that we can bring up the public comment about the proposed charter change notices about, for the town clerk
That
for
should
hours?
probably be in Selectmen's comments.
Selectmen, okay.
I don't want to step on you. I
Okay.
did want to say something about the banners.
Yeah.
So with the banners, thank you, sir, for coming tonight. I think, first of all, I want to thank all the veterans that, served. And what I'd like to do, just so I can do a better job with my board, is maybe sit with a few of you to say, okay, what policies do we have for the banners? How often are they replaced? What happens when they're torn? Because what I don't want to have happen is all of a sudden now it's onto the town. We have limited resources. Our public works crew is already down 2 or 3 people right now. I want to be buttoned up in that we're gonna pay respect to our veterans, and I'm all about that, and I'm sure everybody in the town is. But I got to button up to make sure that we're putting the best display out there as well. So if they're a tattered banner, what goes on? What if somebody can't afford to pay for that banner? What goes on? Because those questions are probably going to hit me first. And I'm okay with fielding any question, but I also don't want to be caught flat-footed, and I want to be able to have the answers. So, and I have your name, because I wrote it down. So Doug, if you can get with me, maybe 2, 3, 4 individuals we can set a meeting, we can at least start to talk about, this particular, policy, who gets on the banner, who doesn't get on the banner, what happens if the banner, is torn, what's the rotation schedule? Again, I want to support this, any which way I can from my office. It's ultimately going to be up to the Board of Selectmen, but I think the board's going to have some questions. Perhaps our residents are going to have some questions. One of the reasons why I took the American flags and proposed to this board that I wanted the town to do it, because now I just get it done and it's easy. Well, it's not easy because, well, it's easy for me because I just call Jim up and say, Jim, can I have the American flags done? But it's to a point when one's tattered. I feel confident that it's our property. I can send out our public works group. They can take the American flag. They can replace it. These banners aren't going to be our property, which gives me a little bit of like, okay, So if we can meet, and I'm looking at you a lot because I think you're involved in it. If we can talk maybe tomorrow, set up a date, bring in a small committee of 3, 4, however many people you want. Let's start defining it and then doing what Selectwoman Grappolo says. Let me bring back a policy or an ordinance, be an ordinance, of what do we want to do with banners? Does that work for everybody?
Absolutely.
It's good?
Can I say something?
It's up to the mayor.
Go ahead, Doug.
In regard to taking them down and putting them back up, that's a lot of work. I've been going through towns in New York State where these all started, and those banners are very well made. I haven't seen a ripped one yet. They last a long time, being up all year long. You shouldn't have to do that. That's why we need Main Street, so we can leave them in the park. There's talk about rotating every 6 months, but that's a lot of work. If we can start, there's a lot of interest in this, and if we can start doing it on Main Street, then we can leave them up all the time.
Okay.
And there's a set thing about what's on there. It's short and simple, so people aren't gonna be looking to try and read everything. They're very strict about what went on there. They didn't put all their medals and stuff.
They're beautiful. The town I live in also does it. They're beautiful. They are. Yeah, they're definitely. But as we go down this avenue, I just want to make sure that my office has all of the answers. And who do I get a call and somebody wants to put their grandfather, their father, their uncle. Who do I reach out to? What if they can't? I didn't. So all questions, but all things that if you guys want to meet prior to us meeting. Coming up with some policies, that would be great, and then we can talk about it, and then we can go from there.
There's the VFW, the Elks Club, they're all supporting it and putting money towards it for people that can't afford it. Most of them are individually owned by the family member, and if there was some damage, the family member would be responsible for having it reprinted. So at a discount cost.
Okay.
It's gonna be less.
Oh, good to know. But the family members aren't hanging them, right?
No.
Okay.
I
All
ain't
right.
hanging them.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none.
Busy summer.
Moving on to item number 7, correspondence. At the last meeting, the board requested we send a letter to the registrar's office that is included, as well as a letter from the registrar's office to us on the voting machines. They will be coming in at some point to give us some demonstrations for the new tabulators that they're still receiving training on. That was state required. Item number 8, boards and commissions. Was it Bill, Troy? Bill?
So tonight, we have no reappointments, no resignations. We have 4 applicants for consideration and no actual nominations. Consideration, Matt Smith, Planning and Zoning, Republican, would be an alternate. We have Jamie Cooligan, Water and Sewer Commission, unaffiliated, full-time member. We have Mary Ann Marino, Inland Wetlands Commission, Democrat, would be a full-time member. And the fourth one, Brista Malanka, Planning and Zoning Commission, unaffiliated. So we were gonna put her into consideration to move from alternate to full-time member. But I'd rather just make a motion tonight to just move her forward to an appointment, since she's been seated on that commission for quite a while.
Second.
May I?
Good. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And I'm not trying to stop it. We just, when you make that motion, do we have the term?
Good point. I do not have the,
And you could, just a suggestion, you could, subject to, I believe that would be taking Mr. Clausen's spot, subject to whatever Mr. Clausen's term was, we could, and then do it that way. Again, I think filling that board is a good idea. It's a busy board, but I
Exactly.
didn't want the record to not reflect the term. And if you motion it to take over the term of Mr. Clausen, I think you've checked all the boxes.
so I will amend the motion to include the term to end the same as Mr. Clausen.
Second again.
I think when Mr. Clausen resigned, his term was in the email, right?
I believe so, which should be, well, may not be in the minutes.
Bear with me, I can pull it up.
It's not in our minutes.
Send 610. I'm looking at the letter that Mr. Clausen sent. This is written as my letter of resignation from membership of Planning and Zoning Commission. I've been a member for a number of years. I've enjoyed working with the commission members. I don't want to get into the personal reason, but it does not list his date. I didn't want to put Mr. Clausen's business out in public.
We can do it just the way we're doing it, it's fine.
Yeah, somewhere we have the date.
Oh, we definitely have the date.
So just, as long as it's used,
And
that's,
I can
use that
read
date.
the expiration date in at the following meeting.
Well, not if you're gonna vote her in tonight.
Okay. I'd prefer to vote her in tonight, we can get that seat.
If you go to boards and commissions,
Oh, yeah.
He won't be on there anymore, I don't think.
planning and zoning, and has your members. No,
You
Not
had,
there.
you had it. Everyone is there.
But they
We're very thorough here in town hall. We've removed
took them off,
And-
okay. Well,
Yeah.
good.
What
But
was
it
what was her
That's right.
date?
Her date as an alternate was January 16, 2024 through October 1st of 2029. Selectwoman Grappo had it, but
Board wants to indulge me, I'll walk down to my office and I'll get you the date.
I think that's great.
take 2 minutes.
So we have a 2-minute recess, Mr. Mayor?
Meeting is in recess till town clerk returns.
Had it. You had it. I was like, oh.
Troy,
What?
when you go to this meeting
Oh.
about the
We're just too efficient.
Meeting is back in from recess.
All right, just one.
Yeah, we'll talk about it if you want to.
Okay, so you want to do the 3 considerations, then move on to, oh, we don't need a vote for the considerations. That's all right.
Just move on.
So we have a
We got
motion
a
on the
first
floor, I'll amend
motion and a
to.
second.
Yep. Any other discussion on Rista Malanka?
We have to
I'll
amend
just
the,
amend that motion
Right.
to include a term end date of October 2027.
Okay. So we have an amended motion, an amended second for Mr. Rista Malaka to move from alternate to member of Planning and Zoning Commission. No further discussion. All in favor? Unanimous, 6-0. So, before we move on, Ms. Marino spoke earlier, and I think that she is more than qualified for Inlands and Wetlands Commission, and I think she would be a great member of that commission. I do pause and have concern with her being on 2 boards potentially that overlap and hear the same cases. Because in theory, that gives one citizen say on any project 2 times. And that I have concern with. One of the things that I've long had concern with many of our boards and commissions is we have too few volunteers that serve on too many boards at the same time. And the charter did recognize, as someone's pointed out earlier, that you can't be on Planning and Zoning and Zoning Board of Appeals, which makes sense, but the charter doesn't call any other commissions that overlap. And that may be something that at some point we need to look at, because you shouldn't have 2 votes on the same project, at least in my opinion. But I think she's more than qualified to be on Inland and Wetlands. So that does give me some concern when we move this into the next step, past consideration. Anyone else? Before we move on from boards and commissions.
That's all I have.
All right, we still have several open commission seats. They're all available on the town's website.
Yes.
Openings. Moving on to number 9, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Item 10, new business. A, Public Works and Roads update. Town Manager Harrington, Public Works Director Rollins.
Mr. Rollins, coming up, but before you start, I thought it was important, I did a little bit of looking at items today and over last week in preparation for this particular meeting. We do a lot of talk about the roadway infrastructure bond package. It was roughly $24 million. On our website, if you type in the infrastructure package, you'll find that each of the projects are listed, and there are 18 road projects, and I'm going to read them quickly. Case Ave, Elm Street Phase 1, Elm Street Phase 2, Hannafin Road, Holabird Ave, Hubbard Street, Lake Street, Indian Meadow Road, Marshall Street, Moore and Roberts Ave, Newfield Road, Oakdale Ave, Old Colebrook Road, South Road, Spring Street, Upland Road, Wahani Road, West Wakefield Boulevard Phase 1, West Wakefield Boulevard Phase 2, and Whiting Street Phase 2. I'm happy to report that 7 of those 18 items are completely done. I'm probably stealing some of your limelight, but I spent a lot of time researching this today, or over the last week. Bridge projects, you have Case Avenue Bridge over Mad River, Grantville Road Bridge, and West Wakefield Boulevard Bridge over to Taylor Brook. And then other projects, you have the fire department ladder truck, Highland Lake watershed drainage, and sidewalks map. I'm happy to report, obviously, Case Avenue Bridge is done, and the West Wakefield Boulevard Bridge is done. Grantville Road, we're in the process of getting that started very, very soon. On top of the $24 million that we go out, or that we went out and asked the residents to borrow to complete those projects, the town funds roughly $400,000 a year. It's been said at this board that it's literally $1 million a mile. And what I'm going to stress to the board a little bit tonight and to our residents, that if we want to see massive roads being paved, we're gonna have to up the budget line item. Because simply put, the $24 million, well, there's your list of projects here. $400,000 a year in paving doesn't get a whole lot done. I don't mean to, be doom and gloom, but Mr. Rollins and I meet often and discuss roads often, and we would love to pave everything. We just need the money to do it. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim. With that, Mr. Rollins.
Yeah, turn on the mic.
Oh,
So as is typical, I'm following the same format that I typically do when I do the road work update. But I was asked to present something a little bit different tonight. The request was for an attack plan of what we're gonna be actually, what's planned. So I broke it down into, several different categories, the bond projects. Paul touched on the projects that are complete. I'm gonna do the projects that are, that have some movement. And as is typical, the black font is the project name, and the most recent update is in the red font. Just to keep it simple, I kept the same format. So, starting with the bond projects, Old Colebrook Road was essentially done with the exception of the last 100 feet, and that was because we had to do a culvert in that area. So our mission is to get out there and finish up that last 100 feet. First time we get the million paving contractor in, that's on the list. It'll be sometime either during the summer or in the fall. The Oakdale Avenue Drainage and Paving Project. This and Holabird Avenue right below it have just become a really tough challenge. Everything is coming in way over budget, and we keep trying to find better alternatives. I've looked at scaling the project back, and then we find another option that we think might get us the whole thing. So we're just still putting, a lot of time into that. The Highland Lake drainage projects. A couple of things that are, going to be happening between now and fall time. At the bottom of Forest Ave, there are several basins that we had to replace a pipe down to the lake. Now we want to replace the basins that feed it. 817 to 825 East Wakefield, there's some under drains and a private water course issue. The under drains were on our list. The private water course issue is what's really causing the ice over there in the winter. It's on private property. That was thrust upon us by the Wetlands Commission approval of our drainage project. So again, mission creep always complicates everything. 225 to 305 West Wakefield, roughly 400 feet of under drains to try to capture all that groundwater so that it doesn't lead up to the surface and cause ice on that corner all winter long as well. I have 4 projects that have been, let's call it an engineering challenge, mostly because they all need surveying, and the engineering firm surveyor doesn't have the bandwidth. We contracted with another surveyor who just recently died a few weeks ago before we had contracts signed. So now we're looking for another surveyor. They're interviewing and asking around, trying to find anybody. So that's, unfortunate. We've lost 3 local surveyors in the last 3 months. So it's a tough, there's a big shortage of that, shortage of engineers, but even a bigger shortage of surveyors. So we're struggling in that department. The Grantville Road Bridge, we had a public comment meeting just a couple weeks ago, and all the public comment from the meeting and then some stuff that's come in later has gone back to the design engineers, and that will be evaluated and put into the final design. South Road, get a lot of complaints on South Road. The drainage is being, for lack of a better term, being designed this summer with the intention to install next summer. Wani Road, that's a project with a time schedule. We have to get that road done ahead of the Ashley Road Bridge that DOT is doing. We've gotten the bid results back for all the drainage, and they're being evaluated now to figure out who is the winning bidder for each of these projects. And the plan is to have that paved, reclaimed, drainage done, reclaimed and paved by, by this fall. Similarly with the sidewalks, we put out the bid. We only had one bidder, so we're evaluating that very closely to see if the prices are comparative to, past pricing, to see if it's something that we can take or if we have to start over. Newfield Road, about all we're doing with that is we're starting to plan the drainage improvements this fall. Nothing will really happen on that. Mostly it's just a bandwidth issue. So those are the ongoing bond projects that are still on the list that have had some action or are recent or soon to have some action. So the second part of the request to have me here tonight was the fiscal 26 capital improvement. What's going on with that? What are the projects? What's the time frame? So going through those, there's really 4 projects on there. Price Road, that's the road that feeds the industrial park. So a lot of heavy traffic, and the road is just worn out. The basin tops have all deteriorated, but the basins themselves and the piping are all good. So the plan is to replace the basin tops. There's like a dozen of them, and then do a 4-inch mill and pave. The hope is to get that done by fall. Guide rail, that was, I think it was a $50,000 or $75,000 capital line. And that should be enough to finish the Taylor Brook Road. We did half of it last year, want to finish it up this year. It's a steep, windy road with steep banks off to the side. And we had a lot of complaints on that. We had a car go off a couple years ago. So we've been sneaking up, doing more and more of those. And this should finish that off, and then probably leave a little bit for some other places. Chapel Road. That was Chapel Road, and the one below it, Dayton Road, were both part of last year's projects that we just weren't able to finish, ran out of time, ran out of money, so we added a little bit of extra funding in this year's capital to finish those up. Chapel Road from Platte Hill into where it changes to dirt is complete. The other side where the plow turns around has to be paved. That's a constant nightmare. And then we would like to expand. There's 2 areas there that are very poor drainage and some real pavement issues. One's about 100 feet long, one's about 200 feet long. We wanna hit that while we're there, just to save the mobilization costs and get it done. Dayton Road, the top 650 feet or so, is terrible. There's a lot of bedrock, so you can't reclaim it. They don't really want to mill it, so it's just going to be remove the pavement, do a fine grade and pave. So those are the fiscal year 26 new projects that we are attacking, ASAP. There's still some previous money unspent from previous fiscal years in the capital improvement budget. The White Street Bridge is one of those, and again, similar to the Grantville Road Bridge, public comment occurred at a town hall meeting, and the public input is being evaluated and implemented into the final design. The Hurlbut-Birdsall intersection. The intersection itself could stand some improvements. The biggest issue there is there's a sidewalk with a fence that has kind of fallen over, a deteriorating retaining wall, rah. And then there's also just this god-awful, ugly, town-owned lot right in that intersection. So we've got some money from past capital to do some design work, but our intern is going to be doing the design work. In fact, she's pretty much done with it, and the wetlands application was submitted, I think, today for this the meeting on the 17th. And we're going to take the drainage that's a problem on Birdsall Street, comes down to the Hurlbut intersection, joins into a drain that runs all the way down Pratt Street and overwhelms that culvert that's existing. We're going to capture that water, keep it out of that culvert, and put it into a constructed wetland, assuming we get approval, and clean up that, make that bank so it's less steep and more maintainable, and try to make it a little bit better looking. The Risha Beach intersection, our intern again is picking away at the design on that and trying to make the parking bigger, the travel lane smaller, the intersection more of a right angle, shorten up the crosswalks, and just make it a lot more user-friendly and slow. I like the design she's come up with. Probably won't make any progress on building it, but the design is definitely creeping forward, and happy to see that. It'll take care of that big puddle that drains in there. It'll take care of that basin that drains into the lake. So it's a nice improvement for that area. Rockwell, Superior, Ridge, and Spring Streets, they're all kind of up on the hill over there. The gas company put a gas main in there, and our job now is, so we get a fee in lieu of to mill and pave that after they're done. But we haven't gone ahead with that because the basin tops are so bad. So we're gonna be replacing all those basin tops and then doing that paving. Spring Street especially has to be paved by winter because it's kind of become unplowable. So we'd like to do all of them, but again, bandwidth always plays a part in, this is my list of things I want to do. We'll see what we actually get done, but this is all on the list. So then, the other question that comes up frequently is the annual road maintenance budget. Everybody thinks that's our road paving budget, which it sort of is. They call it the $400,000, annual road maintenance budget, but it's actually $485,000 because we get $85,000 of lot SIP money that we put right into there. So every year out of that comes roughly $150,000 for crack seal and chip seal, roughly another $150,000 for tree work. That's just hazard trees that get called in by residents. We put them on a list and we take them down. We always have to do guide rail improvements beyond what we've allocated in the capital. There's always guide rail that comes up. Line painting, that's another $20,000 a year we spend. Believe it or not, with all the complaints we get on road condition, we spend $30,000 a year just in asphalt patch to go into potholes and shimming of bad sections, which aren't actual road repairs. So then the $135,000 that's remaining has to fill in the gap for all the other projects. And most of the projects that are on this list, and there's more, but these were kind of the ones that stood out. There's a section of Holmes Drive about 300 feet. That's just got a base failure, which has caused the pavement to go, and the base failure is because of a drainage problem, so we want to do that. The top of Mountain Road where we put the drains, the flat section of Mountain Road, we put drainage in there last year, but we didn't do anything with the pavement, so the water just sits in those ruts, freezes, and just keeps getting worse. We want to mill and pave at least one lane of that and make that so that it's much more plowable and much more driver-friendly for the winter. Danbury Quarter Road, there's 3 crossover pipes on that road that we want to get done, have to get done before they build the bridge, because they probably wouldn't hold up to the heavy loads. One of them was done today, one's going to be done tomorrow, and then the 60-inch one, we haven't figured out how we're going to pull that off. Oak Street, we've got a problem with a curb and a sidewalk over there. It's mostly labor, not a lot of cost, but it's on the list. Orchard Street, we did a bunch of drainage to resolve a terrible icing issue over there. So the drainage was done last year. We'd love to mill it and pave it and get it just really dialed in if we have the time and the money. Morningside and Brookside drainage. That was put into the capital budget. It was requested. It's much needed. If it doesn't get done, it causes problems to neighbors' property. There wasn't the financial bandwidth to include it, so it got cut. If I can find the time and money, I will do that drainage, because we have to do the drainage before we take the gas company's money and do a mill and pave. So that's really high on my priority list. Oakdale Avenue, we did some drainage work there, but we've got to go. So Oakdale's kind of two sections. You got the steep section going all the way up the hill. Once you get to the top, it kind of curves. We did some of it above the curve. We got to do the rest of it down to the curve. Then the bond project is from that curve to the bottom. So we're just trying to sneak it in somewhere, somehow. Sunny Ridge, we had some drainage that we did, I think it was the year before last, and we'd really like to get that paved up too. And then there's always miscellaneous catch basins and crossover pipes that need to be repaired and replaced. There's dirt road repairs, and then whatever else comes up. So there's a lot on the list, and, oh man, I didn't include the last page. Oh, there I did. Yes, you did. The last page is just a newspaper article. I just stumbled upon it reading a trade magazine this weekend, and I just thought it was kind of interesting that I would hand this off, because it really communicates a lot of what's going on with, road work in Connecticut. And in one spot, it states that between 2022 and 2024, material and labor costs to do road work in Connecticut increased by 45%. So just remember that. That's coming from somebody other than me that is, complaining about not being able to come in on budget all the time. This is a trade magazine from Connecticut that, really highlighted this. I just thought it was an interesting thing for you to be aware of. So that was it. Tried to make it quick. Hopefully I didn't overwhelm you, but you've got the document you can look through at your leisure.
Questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. On Hubbard and John Street, they tore up 2 brand-new sidewalks.
Yes.
And then
Well, driveway aprons.
driveway aprons, and then on the corner of John and Hubbard, it looks like they did the 4 corners, some asphalt dug that up. Was that contractor issues, or?
Yeah, we weren't happy with, I can either give you the quick story or the long story. It's up to you. I'll give you the quick story, and if it's not enough, then you can ask for more. We were unhappy with certain segments of both Elm Street and Hubbard Street. There was 3 locations where the concrete was just too bad to keep. There were some areas that it was pitted, but not terrible. And there was a few areas where the asphalt was poorly done, and so we just made them come back and redo it.
Good.
That's the short story. If that's enough, we're good. If not, you can.
Good. Yep, that's enough.
Okay.
That's what I was looking for. Just why.
So the cuts that they made in the asphalt are gonna deteriorate quickly because now you have water penetrating through a cut.
Yeah, well,
So why did you make them do the whole intersection? Because that's their fault. If the asphalt was bad, when I do it in my town, they fix the whole thing. They ain't fixing just the little cut.
That was certainly discussed. There was a lot of
They're bonded
pushback
for that. I mean, that was a $2 million road, which to me was a waste of money because it's an untraveled road and we put granite curbing. We're not.
Yeah,
this
you've
is
made
not-
that statement several times, so.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is not Greenwich.
Yep.
This is Winston. There's
Yep.
things that need to be done. Look at the bridge at Highland Lake, at the spillways. You can't even, people can't walk, they're walking in the water, in the spillways, because of a wood deck bridge that didn't get fixed.
Well, that was
I
put
wanna
on the
know why that
capital
hasn't
list
been
too, and that
fixed.
was denied, so, let me add that to what I'll try to do in my unallocated time.
I mean, there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of time that's gone through the summer. Here we are, midway through July, and nothing's getting done. Most towns have their paving projects done already, unless they can't get the paver because it's in another town.
Yep.
So we need to start moving on stuff like this.
Yep, got it.
Yep.
Hey, Jim, is there a, sorry, is there?
Bill first.
Sorry.
Bill.
Go ahead. I just had 2 questions on roads. Jimmy, you have Wani Road listed, which I'm familiar because I travel it all the time. It says reclaim and pave in the fall. Drainage, I understand, the bottom of that's, like we're losing real estate on that road, the steep part. You say reclaim and pave. You mean right down to dirt and completely repave, or you're gonna try to mill and pave that road?
So milling and reclaiming are different. Milling is when you just take off the top couple inches, or all of it. But what we're proposing is a reclaim. And I didn't get real specific, but we're also intending to add, so you reclaim it, you grind the asphalt down into the gravel underneath. We're also more than likely, we haven't dug our test holes yet, but we're more than likely going to also supplement that with 1.25 inch crushed rock. So that adds to the base. So you grade it, you reclaim it all back in, you grade it, it gives you a better base and, you know, provides a much more structural integrity under the pavement and then pave on top
All
of
right,
that.
that was my question, because that road, you're aware, is bad. Second quick thing, sidewalks. You're evaluating bid results. I noticed you had start with Park Place. Is that still the intent? Because I spoke with actually 2 business owners up there today. I spent the morning up that end of town that are having a tough time with those sidewalks. Basically from the Main Street intersection right up. So we plan on, that is still your plan to get those first on the list?
That's our first target.
Okay.
Yep.
Selectman Marino?
Nope. Oh, do you want to go into the,
We haven't named it yet.
okay, well, let's wait.
You wanna wait? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's finalize it.
Okay.
We are working on a sidewalk plan. Jim, excuse me, Jeff, Mr. Green, Mr. Rollins, myself, and we even bring Tom in. As you know, our ordinance states that, you know, the resident or the business that owns is responsible for the sidewalk in front. We are looking at what is similar to what we use as a clean and lean similar situation. In fact, Attorney Nelligan's been brought into it a little bit as well, in that we go out and we start repairing these sidewalks as well, and putting it back onto either the homeowner and or the business and stretching it out over 20 years or something like that, so we can start addressing these sidewalks as need be. We're finalizing that program, but you know, in order to create a walkable Main Street, it needs to be walkable. So we're meeting often about a sidewalk program. We're 90% there. In fact, we have the letter. I think we're about 95% on the letter, but we're happy to come back and talk to y'all about it. We're just not at 100% of it yet.
Yeah, I would like an update on that before
Yep. Yeah, but it's exciting. The team's met and we've come up with some creative ideas to start addressing these sidewalks, which, as you know, you all know, the ordinance states it's either on the resident and or the business owner, the building owner. So we're looking at it all. We understand that, you know, the last thing anybody wants is an additional expense. So is there a happy medium in between of stretching it out over 5, 10, 15, 20 years? But we need to create this walkable Main Street that we all, you know, want. And this is one of the ways we're thinking we can do it.
Go ahead.
Did you have more?
I did have more.
Well, then you can finish.
My next question is, what's going on with the beach up there? Since winter, there's been straw bale in the road for drainage protection, which I don't understand what the hell that is, and stone all over the side of the road. There's people that go, this is a busy time of year for the lake, and we just left a big bomb there on the corner. I mean, what's going on with that? And that was supposed to be paved before the people even got there.
Correct. Holland Beach is, I guess, the easiest way. We had a pretty limited amount of money to try to make improvements to that for the rec department. So we did the best we could with what we had, and a complicating factor came in, which I kind of expected, but it proved to be pretty challenging. There were some just massive boulders in one section, and we just couldn't lower that level to the level that we wanted to work with the elevation of the pavement that we have. So as Mission Creep happens, since that parking lot had to come up, if we were to pave that out, all that water would run across the road and out towards the lake, which is not what we want. So the next step is, okay, now we gotta bring the road up. I didn't budget for that. I didn't have the resources for that. So we're working on, you know, trying to figure out how to fit all of that in. Now, we do have Highland Lake drainage, or Highland Lake West Wakefield Boulevard money. I don't really love the idea of fixing that road because we do have to do a water main under there, but we're at least 5 years away from that, and it just can't wait that long. So we're gonna have to do that. think if you look at that, it was on the second to last page. We're looking at bidding that one out through the CROG bid or Easy IQC. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those. That way we can get away without having to get a full engineering plan for it and work along with the contractor and kind of get the biggest bang for your buck. So as soon as we can pull it off and get it done, but would it have been nice to have it done? Yeah.
What's going on with all that stuff in the road? You can't fix that part, at least get that done? When you go around the corner, half the road's
I could, and
taken
then I would chew it back up when I go to redo it. And if there's anything that people really hate, is when you do something and then you dig it up and you redo it. So I really try to avoid that.
Right,
when
but I
can.
mean, you got drainage stone in the, I'm saying, clean that, if you're not
Sure,
doing
okay,
that,
we'll clean
get
that
that
up.
out of there. Because I mean, people with boats and everything, people with cars, I go there all the time, it's a big pain in the butt to get through there.
Okay, yeah, we'll clean that up.
I mean, it's doing nothing, so.
Me?
Okay, done you.
Thank you. So Jim, first of all, this is the least favorite job in town, I'm sure, right? Because this is 30 years of neglect we're trying to figure out how to fix.
I think it's more than 30.
But it's no surprise that in the survey that we got back from the town, that number one on the list by far was infrastructure and roads. People are screaming nonstop about roads.
Yep.
And we've got to figure out, I get the budget parts of this, and we're working on budget issues all the time. But when I hear you constantly talk about, we don't have the bandwidth to do it. We don't have the ability to do it. And the question I have is, how do you decide when to sub things out to, and what does that do to the budgetary process? But what can we do to think outside the box of what we've been doing and speed this up? Because the residents want to see progress, and we can't keep saying it's engineering, or we don't have the bandwidth, or it's being worked on. You know, so many of these bond project roads are still haven't even been started yet. And that bond was done, you know, how many, 4 years ago now? So what can we do to try to sub some of it out and speed this process? Is there, you know, any new ideas that you can come up with, Jim?
That's the calculus, right? That's the challenge, you know. Believe me, I hate the fact that it's dollars and bandwidth that get in the way of everything. And believe me, I'm exhausted trying to do the impossible with the inadequate. Like, that's my day-to-day. We are going into a budget or a bond project that was a 5-year plan. We're 4 years into it. So some of these roads were not scheduled to go yet. Some of them were. We're ahead on some, we're behind on some. But again, let's go right back to this statement. This bond was priced out prior to this 45% increase. So we're trying to, you know, trying to do this when your costs have gone up 45% and trying to stay on track is with time and dollars. And with, you can't get a survey to design something, you can't get the engineers, and the engineers can't get inspectors. I try to get my guys to do most of the prep work to get ahead of it. I can't keep my guys because they keep going elsewhere for better pay. So think outside the box. I try every day. If you got better ideas for me, email them to me, because I'm doing everything I can come up with.
I think when we, I don't know, a year or so ago, when we all started having these conversations, it was, Jim, if there's things you need, let us know, right? If there's things you need, we can't wave a magic wand and make sure everything you ask for you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, other than this update that you give us every month or so, I don't know what you need or don't need. I don't know what would help or not help to get the results. You know, I want to call him every Monday morning and scream the magic words, pave something.
I think you do.
Right? Pave something. We got to get results.
Most of us, so.
Yeah, because we're getting yelled at constantly. It's the #1 issue. So I know
get yelled at everywhere I go.
I'm sure you do.
So how many miles of road do we have? I'm sure it's in the back of my head somewhere, but.
There's 80 miles of road.
80 miles.
And all 80 need work. Well, not all 80 anymore,
No,
but.
So it's $1 million a mile, there's 80 miles.
And hang on, so there's 80 miles of road. That's something, right? It's a lot. Most of our work isn't in the road. It's on the road sides. And we have 160 miles of those. So the job is a lot bigger than people think. And the stuff that people complain about are the roads themselves, right? They wanna drive fast and they wanna have no bumps. Can't fix that without the drainage. That's another thing they don't see. So, and that's the expensive part.
Unless there's water and sewer under it, and that needs to be repaired, now you've
That too.
increased it.
And you have to plan these jobs 5 years in advance with the other utilities, because that's just how you do it. The gas company, the electric company, the water company, sewer company. So logistically, there's a lot to it. So it's
There's shortage
really
of
hard.
surveyors, shortage of engineers, everywhere I go. Every trade show, everybody's having the same issue.
Can we sub more out?
Sure, you gotta
So-
get more money.
Right?
Well, I don't know, I was gonna ask, what's the difference between having our crews do it and subbing it?
A lot different.
Well, depends on what it is. Some things we can do a lot cheaper in-house. Some things we can't because we don't have the equipment.
Right.
Sometimes we borrow, sometimes we rent. But every time they're doing that, they're not doing something else. And the biggest problem that makes it hard to work is if you put something out to bid, you have to have a set of plans for it. So you need them to be engineered.
Engineered before.
And to Bill's point, you just can't get the bid documents. And then if you do, it's just time, it's money, there's bandwidth. And it's not
Well,
just our bandwidth, it's the engineers, the surveyors, the contractors.
Right. And I'm aware of the budget issues, right? We
And
can
the
only
budget
spend what we can
issues.
spend. But if there's bandwidth issues that we can fix,
But you can't fix it without money. And
Well-
we've gotten a clerk of the works. He's the reason we got the 2 bids out. He's deciphering them now. We brought an intern in at minimum wage, and she's probably saved us $50,000 of engineering. So we're trying to think outside the box.
I think that's great. So
Right.
do we need more of those people? Do we need more interns or,
Now, at the same time, the intern doesn't just show up and make stuff happen. That pulls bandwidth away from me, Bart, Gabe, to help her do her job. So nothing's free. There's a price to be paid for every single thing, even though it's moving you in the right direction. It's either time or money, or both. So you can only squeeze so much out of the resources we have, and that's time and manpower, money.
So Jim, one question, I guess, maybe, it's not a criticism, it's an understanding. So when we first started this and we said, let's do the roads and whatnot, I discussed engineering, because again, we spent millions in
Spend a
engineering.
lot.
Every road we're doing, do we have to engineer that?
Not every road.
I mean, even though we're not 100% sure, if it's not a state requirement, we have to engineer it. Can we just put some of these drains in?
So-
We're not gonna get 30 years out, but will we get 15?
Well, no, so the answer to your question is yes. And so the way we structured our sidewalk bid and our drainage bid is for that, to solve that exact problem. We put them out for unit prices. So this driveway detail, this curbing detail, this handicap ramp detail, this drainage detail, this, crossover detail, each has a price attached to it. And whoever, you look at a job and it's got 7 of these details and 12 of these, whoever had the lowest price for that mix gets that job. And this is a 3-year contract. So now we can do some of that stuff. Now, but that means we have to go out there, instead of an engineer, Gabe goes out there, says, this is the sidewalk detail we need here, this is the drainage detail we need here. But before that, Phil has to go out and examine them to see which ones are good, which ones are bad. So all of that stuff, time and, and bandwidth.
Yeah, I was just curious, not necessarily even the immediate downtown area, but we have some roads that are,
And those are
that
easier.
are out there that, like
Between-
part of South Road, I think was on your plan for this year, for the beginning half of South Road.
Yep.
There's extremely minimal drainage on that road. That road's about as flat and just a little crown.
Yep.
Again, we're not having an engineer look at that road, I would assume.
No, that's one that we're planning on designing in-house.
And
And that can be constructed with the bid that we just got back.
And so you know my opinion, I have a love-hate relationship with engineers, because I use a lot of them, and Two, I'm spending millions of dollars with these engineers, which is great. The amount of money this town spends with engineers, and again, is it hard to hire people? Yeah. I understand PEs are expensive. I mean, the guys are close to $200K a year. In my mind, again, something for future budget, if we're spending $1.5 to $3 million a
All right,
year
well,
on
again,
engineering.
we're starting to get in the weeds.
Well, all right, I'm
Better
just
wrap it up and get
saying.
back on track.
But again, to
The
your
engineering
point,
costs, I understand.
I remember, a year and a half ago, sitting with you and Troy in the town manager's office, having this conversation about why don't we, hire more people and buy more equipment and do this stuff in-house and save money? Well, headcount, employee headcount is a 4-letter word. That's why. Do I think you could save a ton of money and serve the public better? Yes. But every time headcount gets put in the budget, so Paul, I'm trying everything I can think of, and I pay attention to the Public Works listserv to get the ideas that other towns are doing. I take the comments from my guys, and I listen to the people screaming at me when they pull up next to me at a light. So if you got better ideas, send them over.
Yeah, again, it's not even so much, and I know the budget is a concern, and we're concerned about this 40% increase and what's gonna happen with the bond, and will we even have the money the project's done, we put the bond out for. But it's more about the bandwidth thing. When you say, listen, I don't have enough help to get the job done, that's interesting, because maybe we can wring out a few pennies, maybe there's a savings somewhere, and we can get the people on board that you need. Because we're trying to play catch-up here, and it'll be forever, and literally, that's not what the public wants to hear. And let's pave the big ones, man. Whatever you got ready that's mill and pave, let's get the guys out there and do that, because that shows progress anyway. I get the engineering and the drainage, but if we got some nice, easy mill and paves, let's do them.
There's not a lot of easy mill and paves. Almost everything needs some drainage work. And again, that was the whole point of this drainage bid. And it's a complicated bid, and we're deciphering it, and we want to start awarding that and getting it going. One other thing we're thinking outside the box, virtually all the drainage jobs or all the paving jobs you see, even DOT, what's the first thing they do? They pull those concrete catch basin covers off, put new ones in, and repave. I hate those things. The concrete just doesn't hold up. So we're looking at going at just all cast iron. They cost more. Availability is tougher. So we're trying, if we can keep them in place and not have to, not have that 8 inches of concrete around the grate fail, then you can just, now you're not gonna have, there's just so many problems associated.
How long does
with
the
that.
concrete ones last?
5 to 15 years,
If you're lucky.
And the cast iron ones, we got some of those up in the manor, they've been there for 50-something years, and, they're starting to fail now. So there's, they cost $100 a piece more, but in my mind, it's worth it long-term. So again, another way we're trying new things, and but even something new costs you more upfront.
Right.
It's a better value long-term, kind of like granite curbing, costs you a little bit more upfront, but it holds up so much better than concrete. And asphalt, yeah, at least you can fix asphalt, but, yeah, it's
Just the expense.
it's that initial expense, it's 20-25% more than the other way, but,
If I was to give you any advice as a colleague, it's slow and steady wins the race. Stick on one project, finish the project, go on to the next project.
yeah.
Because
There's
if you
some
try to
wisdom to
do
that.
everything all at once, you're gonna get yelled at. So,
I get yelled at no matter what I
I
do.
know, but I mean, it's
40%
still.
20% of the people think
Wait till the meeting's over. We're
it's
all
the
gonna
stupidest
yell
thing
at
that
you.
ever happened. 20% think it was the best, right? And 60% didn't know anything happened. That's just the way it is.
Well, I've noticed in my town, as long as I finish the project, the yelling goes down a little bit, and then I move on to the next one.
Yeah, there's some truth to that.
Because I only have 5 guys anyway, so,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's what I do. I try to finish one project from start to finish and then move on.
Yeah, there's some wisdom in that for sure.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Moving on to item B, update on social services at Town Hall.
I promise it will not take as long as the roads update, but I wanted to take just a brief second to just talk about the social services. As you all know, we don't have a social services director, but we did bring in the outside agencies and were able to bring them into Town Hall. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, the TV's turned off, but I will let you know that if you're on our town's website and you go to government and you click on the social services tab, it will bring up the hours that these outside agencies are actually in town. I'm saying this publicly because maybe you don't need the social services, but maybe you know somebody that does. Or maybe you come across somebody that may need them. So the more information that I can put out there for, you know, the Army to disperse, the better. So really quickly, on Mondays from 9 to 4, we have McCall Behavioral Health Network. On Tuesdays from 9 to 4, we have CHH Housing Navigator. On Wednesdays from 9 to 4, we have Western Connecticut Area Agency for Aging. On Thursdays in the morning from 9 to 12, we have New Opportunities. And from noon to 6, we have the Youth Services Bureau. And then on Fridays from 9 to 11, we have Greenwood Counseling. The other item that we took some time over the last 2 weeks or so is on the Social Services tab of the website. We list everything from domestic violence, energy assistance, farmers market, the fire department, food, the Salvation Army, the CT food share, harm reduction, housing, Chestnut Grove, Laurel Commons, Susan MB Perry Apartments, the Glen, landlords complaints going to, and we keep going, renters rebate program. We list all important numbers that if somebody that needs help, please either help them with the information that we have put out on the website or direct them to the website. We spent, you know, a couple of hours just fine tuning this because there are people, you know, I'm hearing it every single day, the need is increasing. So we did want to spend some time in making sure that the information is readily available. Hopefully nobody in this room needs it, but if you can help us spread the word that the resources are there. These outside agencies are in our offices every day, and the great part about all of these outside agencies, they're all talking to one another. So if you do show up on a Monday from 9 to 4, and you may need something for a senior citizen, they will pass that information along to our Wednesday agency, which is, you know, Western Connecticut Area Agency of Aging. So I wanted to take at least 3 minutes, 5 minutes to just let the community know that social services is alive and well. These outside agencies are thriving in there, and there are resources available. We've made it easy. I'm going to stop and open it up to if anyone has any questions.
Questions from the board?
No, it's a good resource. Are these resources on the website?
Yes, they are. So I literally printed this 2 pages from our website. So I don't know why the TV's turned off. I didn't see anyone hit the buttons, but I'm looking at our website right now, and I'm looking at the exact, and Paul he can look over my shoulder, he can see.
It's there.
It's all right there. Just at the top of the page, government tab, social services, and these 2 pages will pop up. We are advertising them on our social media channels as well, but the resources are available. We've packed it all together. So, other
Anything
questions?
else?
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Moving on to item C, Zoning Board of Appeals discussion, Selectman Hester, Selectman Marino.
So I'll take this one, Mr. Mayor. As liaison to the Zoning Board of Appeals, I have witnessed and I'm aware of inappropriate conduct by a Zoning Board of Appeals member, Mr. John Pollock. This conduct is not unique to one meeting, but has happened on multiple occasions. Therefore, under Article 16, Paragraph 1601 of the Town of Winchester Charter, I move that we schedule a removal hearing under the terms of Paragraph 1601 for Mr. John Pollock to take place at our next regular Board of Selectmen meeting on July 21st, 2025. Grounds for his removal to be included in his notification letter are as follows. Mr. Pollock has shown a definite and continued bias against development within the Highland Lake District. Mr. Pollock has a record of voting his bias not only with the Winstead zoning regulations, or not with the Winstead zoning regulations or Connecticut case law as he's obligated to do. Mr. Pollock has committed repeated willful misconduct by discussing ZBA applications outside of the public hearing. And Mr. Pollock exposes the town to increased levels of potential litigation.
Anything from the board?
Motion needs a second.
I'll second that motion.
We need to notice him according to that paragraph 1601. I don't know how that notice gets done, Paul?
I wish,
Not the charter?
nope, got it right here.
Okay.
I brought one. I'll bring it to every meeting. Article 16, you said. General statute by the authority which appointed him. So by the authority which appointed him, provided him, he shall first be given notice in writing of the specific grounds. So it is silent on who notices them. Obviously, I have no problem noticing them, or if the mayor notices them, the appointing authority notices them. I think it's the board's pleasure. Just tell me which direction you want to move in, and I'll make sure it gets done. Or depending on how the motion goes.
Do we want to have it come from the mayor?
How many days notice does it need?
So what it states is that, provided he shall be given notice in writing that the specific grounds of the removal and an opportunity to be heard in his own defense, personally or by counsel at a public or private hearing before the Board of Selectmen. Said hearing shall be held not less than no more than 20 days after such notice. So I believe we have to notice, and then it can't be no less than 5 days, but no more than 20.
Which our next meeting should put us in the window.
So if you do, let's just say if we get a notice out by the end of the week, our next meeting's the 21st. If you're counting even weekends, obviously, that's, a week, 7 to 8 days, depending on how quickly we get the notice out. Let's say we get the notice out he receives it on Friday of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. You can't count the 9th day would be the meeting. So we're within the charter window of definitely noticing them. If I'm writing the letter, I would just ask, I try to write quickly, but I want to make sure I get the letter right, but let the board decide which action it's going to take, or who's taking it.
I think we can have you write the letter, Paul. I'll provide you with the grounds as stated in the motion.
Okay. Other discussion?
Just one, Mr. Mayor. I am not the appointing authority. I have no problem crafting the letter. I would think it might be better being signed by the mayor.
Yes.
Because I am not the appointing, no problem writing the letter. Todd can provide input with it, but I don't have the power to appoint. Well, at least on ZBA, I do have some on some of it, but
So we'll draft a letter that will come from the mayor.
I can do that. I'll work on that.
We'll send it up to the board before we send it. Actually, no, comes to Paul's office to see.
Yeah, I caution that if you send it out, you're holding a meeting outside of public purview.
Right.
So if the letter does go out, there can't be responses regarding the letter, because then you're holding a meeting outside of
So if you
public
have
purview.
any input to Paul.
Give the input directly to me, but please, I've stated this on several emails, don't hit the reply all feature.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
I'll provide to
Go
you
to his office.
the motion and the grounds so that you'll have that for the letter.
No other discussion? All in favor? 6-0, unanimous?
We'll work on it tomorrow. You available?
Yes, sir.
Draft back and forth.
Moving on to item 11, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Please give your name and address. Who would like to speak? Augie?
Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Selectmen, I'm Aubrey English, 97 Hinsdale Avenue. I'm the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'll do my first 2 minutes as ZBA chairman and the last minute as a private citizen. So I was notified, well, first of all, I want to thank Selectman Moreno for notifying me 4 hours in advance to this meeting as to the actions that's being discussed as far as one of my members goes. I did happen to hear about this from different people around town within days beforehand, too. You know, I take my stewardship on the ZBA very seriously as a service to the town, as I think as any one of our members and alternate members do as well, too. I also know, too, that removing a member from a board, which is the right of this board to do, is one that should not be taken very lightly. Not knowing all the facts before going into this hearing, I will hope that this board will, you know, not use any type of, like, you know, personal prejudice or whatnot, again, or because they may not like a decision one of my members has taken because of that. We start doing that, you can start removing other members, and we don't have a line of people, as we see tonight, that want to be sitting on these boards and commissions. Okay, we only have so many people who want to, who will do that. And these are positions that need to be filled, and it's very important to the town. So keep that in mind when we want to discuss removing board members. And I also would appreciate also, as chairman, being given a little more notice as to, you know, any concerns with my members as well too. I take my service with them very seriously as well too. The second thing I will mention too, as a member, as a private citizen, I will just add on to what Mr. Hudak mentioned earlier about this proposed ordinance. I'm just going to add this. In this day and age, people are really questioning how our elections are being run, okay? We want to be sure it's being done right, okay? Any question of any legalities, improprieties, everything that can cause a town a lot of money, a lot of headache. We want to be sure that we conduct our elections with as very minimal few flaws as possible. So I would again highly recommend and would plead with this board, please seriously take a look at this proposed ordinance, and it's for the good of making sure our elections are done properly, correctly, and fairly. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Hudak, 232 Granville Road. I just wanted to comment about something that the mayor had said regarding whether a person can serve on 2 commissions. And wanting to avoid the conflict, which I agree with completely, is important. In this instance, however, having served on Planning and Zoning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation Commission, and Inland Wetland Commission in another town, I recognize the fact that inland wetlands in particular is not very discretionary. And that is, it is primarily focused on ensuring that the applicant is consistent with state statute and regulation. So for that reason, I'm not sure that there is as much of a conflict as you might otherwise expect. Again, I really appreciate your thought process. I appreciate your judgment on this, but I thought that adding that one bit of information might be helpful. Thank you.
Somebody over here wanted? Go ahead.
Holly Atkinson, 152 Grantville Road. I wanted to talk about the Everbridge service, and actually timely and kind of hilarious that the day that I received my Everbridge alert, and it was the first one on the Danbury Porter Road closure, which we had literally just written about, the safety and problems related to that. So the timing was funny, and that was also the day that we had wicked storms throughout the state, okay, trees down everywhere. That was July 3rd that Everbridge went out at about noon. So hit me, and very funny timing on the Everbridge thing. But I originally wanted to speak because I have an idea, I guess, for Paul or whomever. You might use the Everbridge outreach as a way to get learnings that you could then apply to things like the next vision survey and stuff like that. So lots of ideas, and I'd be happy to work with you. You could do workshops, you could do open house at town hall, you could do canvassing, have somebody show up at the senior center, AMP. You could do the schools messaging app, maybe. I don't know what the rules are for that, but like all the parents are on some stuff. So there's lots of creative ways you might be able to get folks to sign up for Everbridge. Use the town socials, you know, tag a friend, kind of stuff. Simple things that I'd be happy to sit down with whoever, you know, Paul and whoever works with you on the town socials to get that done. It's really important, and I think services like that, especially going forward, are really important, and it's great to have the choice too to unsubscribe from Parks and Rec and sign up for the thing. So anyway, I've got lots of ideas, and I'd be happy to share them, and just wanted to again make a note that it was very funny that we received ours on July 3rd, and that storm, we could have been cut off in both directions. So need to definitely get that issue moved along with whomever's making the decisions at the State Department of Transportation on the bridge. Got to have a lane open, just to reiterate what Stephen said before. But I'd love to work on the Everbridge thing, and you could use the learnings. You could sort of say, here was where we're starting, here are the numbers, and then let's see how many people we can get people talking in town. Oh, and the EDC. Maybe the EDC could we could have a graphic, and they could ask, you know, Carrie and Rooted and folks to either post it or throw it on their socials. Hey, sign up for this Everbridge. I could go on with the ideas, but happy to sit down with whomever and talk about it.
I'm sorry, I know it's public. I get excited when people want to volunteer, so, and I don't want your number now because it'll be public record. Can you call the office tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Let's get a meeting. I love when people volunteer. We're gonna have so much fun together. So
Openings on boards and commissions.
Hey, don't take my volunteer away from me. But please call, let's sit down. Love it. Sorry, Mr. Mayor and board.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jen Perga, 378 East Wakefield Boulevard. I was just, when you started the public works discussion, you were talking about the projects that had been completed, and maybe we could use the new website to highlight those, because there really has been some success. I feel when I'm driving around, I notice the ones that are complete. And then there were some comments about the lots that the town owns, and a lot of them are up at Highland Lake. And so I just want to remind the board that in the last 2 iterations of the POCD, there was a recommendation to reserve those lots for conservation. They're really protective of Highland Lake. And there could be some opportunities to generate income for the town by selling them for conservation. There might be grants out there to do that, so we might be able to preserve them but also generate income. And I just am pretty sure that there is no sewer line for a lot of those lots. They're on these paper roads that don't have maintenance or plowing. I heard from one person, I don't know if this is true, that it can be really hard to get a mortgage because it's not really a road. And so for protection of Highland Lake, I just want to take some of those things into account. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, moving on to item 12, executive session. Discussions and updates from the town attorney, Kevin Nelligan. Taking with us attorney Kevin Nelligan. And item B, discussions regarding selections of a site for the lease, sale, or purchase of real estate. And with that, bringing us Realtor David Sederano.
You just mentioned Connecticut General Statute.
Connecticut General Statute 1-200-6D.
We're gonna be including the town manager.
And the town manager.
No?
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. That's all, right?
Costa Hawk, yes, please. You may want to
It is 10:01 PM. We are back from executive session. We have no action to take. Moving on to...
No action was taken.
No act, no, we're going to take action. Moving on to item 14, Selectmen's comments and reports. Anybody have anything?
I do. Oh, Linda, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I do think we should address the addition to Chapter 87 notices that was discussed in citizen comments. I'd like to make a motion that we move it to the town attorney to review so that we could proceed.
I think the board needs to have a meeting to look it over first before they send it to the attorney for changes, otherwise we'll be sending it to the attorney twice.
We haven't seen it, other than just,
Okay,
that was the
so-
first time any of us.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so maybe make a copy.
We can put it on the next agenda or the first agenda in August. And we'll get this out to the board members.
Okay, and then the second thing, last meeting, I had made a comment about, the Historic Commission, Chapter 15, Section 50, Chapter 50, Section 3, about membership, that it was outdated, and it really needs to be corrected. You said it had been changed last year.
I am so happy you mentioned that. I know you're in Selectmen comments. I have to say that Selectwoman Grappo is 100% accurate, that when it was changed, but all of the members do need to be residents. You were right. When we looked at the ordinance and the changes that were made under Bob Geiger, that the members do have to be residents.
They have to be residents, but it said all members shall be electors. Electors or voters.
Voters.
That needs to be removed, because you said that at a meeting you decided that they did not have to be electors. They could just be residents.
So what happened with that is, I think Selectwoman Perez mentioned that it was changed. It was
Correct.
not changed. So does the board want to bring up that ordinance and remove electors, or keep it as electors being on the historical commission? You do have a member that we'll have to address.
You have two members.
Two
that are
members,
not-
excuse me. Two members, thought it was one, the one that we put on last week, but there's two now?
I was almost positive we changed it at a meeting.
I agree with you. There was, I remember.
I thought we did too, because we took on Hamish, didn't we? And he was not a member, but yet he has a wealth of knowledge about the historical commission, so.
And I'm going to tell you, we referenced the meeting minutes from that Board of Selectmen where the ordinance change went into effect. It makes no mention of them not being electors. I'm just letting you know what the minutes, I was not there, but the minutes do
Wasn't the
not
ordinance
reflect.
put into writing at some point?
It was, and it does, as Selectwoman Grappo read, they have to
Yeah.
be electors.
Electors meaning they vote in town.
Correct.
They don't have to be residents. Because we obviously have a lot of folks that are not residents that do vote for budgets and what have you. So I think that was the intent. As I remember when we changed it, we were looking to make it electors so that effectively a non-resident could be a member of that board.
Then again, this is something you need to check with Attorney
Yeah.
Nelligan. We go through this all the time with boards and commissions. There's a difference between residents and electors.
Well, we did try to change that in the charter
Yeah.
revision and it got squashed.
And charter revisions, that as we know, are very difficult to get done.
Okay, so to get back to this, we have two members that are on the board that are not, they're not voters in town. You can be a voter in town to vote on the budget, but you're not a registered voter. You vote in other towns to vote for your presidential.
Correct. Or
Okay,
any elected,
so-
yeah.
There's a difference. So that needs to be clarified, and the wording needs to be corrected on EME code for the ordinance if,
Yeah, it becomes,
But,
so we looked
sir,
at the minutes from the Board of Selectmen
and
meeting, and it
you never-
stated what's in E-code, and E-code actually went in. There was a change.
It should say revised if it was changed.
It
from-
doesn't on the top,
This
if you
is
don't
it,
mind.
this is the copy. This is-
So amended,
amended
1/2/2024.
And 4/15/2024.
And 4/15/2024. So it was right before it was the meeting right before I came on. So E-code did change, and that's why the intent, and my microphone's probably not, the intent, it said electors. It did not strict that, and we went back to the Board of Selectmen minutes, and it didn't change that.
So what? So the two,
The two are actually not qualified to serve, per the way the ordinance
is written.
and not just written, but passed.
Okay.
Because you look at the minutes of that Board of Selectmen meeting, or, you know, of the ordinance, and it was just moved. It wasn't like somebody, it was a typographical error or anything like that. Those two members are per the ordinance, are not qualified to serve on
Okay,
historical.
so it needs, I guess we need to check with.
Well, we could probably check the 3 meetings before that, because I know that we discussed Hamish's membership on that
I remember
board.
that clear as a bell too.
And we were very careful to differentiate the difference between what we thought we were differentiating, maybe we didn't clarify it well, but residents and electors, I think we thought they were not one and the same.
They are, that's correct. They are not one and the same. They are two different things. Resident and elector are two different things.
But yet a resident can vote for town officials, for example, an elector cannot vote for.
If you're a resident, if elector means voter.
But what's the difference between a resident and an elector?
A resident.
I don't think nothing.
Well, you may have a residency here and one in New York, where you vote in New York for all of your stuff.
I think we should get clarification on the definitions, first of all, because I think the intent was that you didn't have to be a resident to be on that board. I think that's what we were trying to get to.
Correct.
And if we need to redo the wording based on the definitions, then that's what we need to do.
Okay. So you're gonna reach out to Kevin to
100%,
okay.
yeah.
Just for that board, Paul. We determined that
Yeah,
just historic.
it was unique to the historical because we were trying to get more people with a wealth of knowledge to be able to be on that board, I think, as I remember.
Yeah, because there's people out there that spent many, many, many years here, but don't actually live here right anymore, but they have a wealth of knowledge about the town. So
Right.
why would you exclude them?
And I think, and I do apologize, because we looked at this the next day and why it didn't come back over into this meeting, but the historian, the town's historian, does not need to be a resident in the town. Is that what the ordinance states?
Let's see.
That rings a bell, too.
Yeah, that's the one, so the historian does not need to be in either an elector or resident, or it could be the same thing, but we gotta get the definition.
If I remember correctly, you're not gonna get a good definition either.
I think some of
It
it was when
doesn't say
the,
anything about that.
I read some,
when.
I know my marching
About
orders.
this,
Because the-
okay.
the
We just
historic-
need to revisit
enough.
that.
The
I know my
Historic
marching
Commission came
orders.
on the same time as the,
Cultural.
thank you. And the cultural, I'm pretty sure they decided it didn't have to be a resident in this town because there's some business owners that could have been part of that culture division of that commission too. So I think that's where some of that had fallen in there.
We scratched our head when we looked at it the next morning
Yeah,
after
I
the last
think,
meeting.
I think the gentleman we put on last week does live in town. He just moved here, he owns a house here, so that gentleman does live here in town.
He's a resident, but he's not a voter. He's a resident, he
I mean,
lives
I think
here.
that's something that they also have to look into, and Hamish,
He's
I always
not a
thought,
voter.
actually lived in town. The other guy I thought always lived in town, so.
Let me look at
What's
it.
choice
Let's-
there is the part-time.
On his application, it just said resident.
Yeah, but if he lives
If
here,
he
he's
was,
a voter.
if he was
If he has
vetted,
over
if he was
$1,000
vetted,
value,
you would
he would be
find out whether he
eligible
was
to vote
registered as a
referendums.
Democrat or Republican or unaffiliated. You know, I didn't vet him, I don't know, but he didn't have a party.
Those
still be voting
I
it
mean,
down.
that's not a big deal, so.
Well, we just have to get the definition, and then
Yeah.
Yes.
we all know what the
Clarify.
intent was, so we just have to clarify that.
I mean, if he's a resident, he's automatically a voter, I think, right?
Nope.
If he's not registered.
Well, unless he's not registered to vote. I mean, maybe some people don't choose not to vote. But that shouldn't keep them off a commission.
It should if it's, if the
I
ordinance.
actually think that he just didn't want anybody to know what his party affiliation was, that's why he did residence. I think that was his choice,
But if it was vetted, you would have found out his party,
that's all I can say.
whether he was a registered voter or not.
Call Debbie.
That,
see if he's registered.
but that's part of the vetting process, I
What to go?
believe, to check,
I
to
never
see
went
if
to
he's
the
a,
register of voters. Most people put their designation on the form.
Any other comments?
Yes. So I wanted to address what you spoke about regarding Mary Ann Marino's application. And in full disclosure, you all know she's my sister. But having served on ZBA for a number of years, the vast majority of applications go before both of these boards. They go before Inland Wetlands and they go before ZBA. You know, William Kudak spoke in his second public comment saying that he worked in a town or was in a town where they were able to do that. We're unique because of the lake. And at ZBA and clearly at Wetlands, the vast majority of all the applications are at the lake. So when you talk about a conflict, you're giving one person the ability to vote twice on one application. And I don't care, and I would be saying this if it was anybody else applying for it, you know, not my sister, but to me, it's hugely inappropriate for one person to get two bites at the apple for a resident who wants to come in and do a project. And believe me, if you went down and looked at all the applications, it's probably 90% of the ZBA applications are at the lake. And of course, 90% of the inland wetlands applications, if not 95%, are all at the lake. It's rare that you find a wetlands application for somewhere else in town that happens to have a little wetlands on the property. So I would urge you to consider that when we get together in our next meeting to move her to the nomination stage. I think if she wants to resign from ZBA and go back to wetlands, and if the need for the town is we have a bigger need at wetlands, because particularly this is a deep draw year and the load for inland wetlands is going to be huge. If that's the case, and she wants to resign from ZBA, I think she'd be great on inland wetlands. But I don't believe anybody should serve on those two boards because they are very interconnected. And you have essentially only 3 boards that control development at the lake, and 2 of them would have one person on them. And I think that's wildly a conflict. So contrary to what Mr. Kudak said about having it worked in another town, what makes our town unique is the lake and the amount of applications that come across for development up there.
Anyone else? Before we leave, I just wanted to bring up something that Mr. Warner had said earlier when he spoke about the veterans' flags. If there is a backlog of people interested in them, we do have other appropriate places that we could hang them in addition to the East End Park. We've got Soldiers Monument, a site dedicated to soldiers. We've got George Dudley Park, that's where the Korean and the, I forget the other monument in that park. And we also have Forest View Cemetery, where all the veterans' graves are, where we do all the veterans ceremonies like Wreaths Across America and the Veterans Day ceremony. So there are other places that would be appropriate, I think, to put veterans' flags. More stuff that we can talk about when we put the ordinance together as we move forward. With that?
I just want to add to that. All those places were looked at, but there's nothing to hang anything on. So something would have to be manufactured that would hold the banners. And I mean, there was discussion of, you know, a wire with 2 poles, and I don't know how attractive that, I think the, hanging them off the light poles with the brackets is very attractive, it helps make it look halfway decent. And that was the need to not go, unless we want to install light poles in those parks.
But it's a possibility too.
Yeah.
There's always work
And with
around.
that, make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Good night.
See you, everybody.